I do hope you're all fed and watered and ready for a fantastic afternoon's entertainment courtesy of the British Racing and Sports Car Club here in after called the BRSCC on the Grand Prix circuit here at Silverstone. If you weren't with us this morning, why not? You missed Brad Jones take a first victory in the BRSCC Mazda Mark 1 Clubman's Championship with Oak Richardson second and John Pethick third and fastest lap. That sets us up for their second round a little bit later on. We were going to give you a little bit of a tour of the pit lane, but the cars are already on the grid for our first race of our afternoon session. It is the modified Ford Series, an absolutely packed grid of everything magnificent blue oval Ford. So to talk you through the drivers and the various marks and years involved in this wonderful racing series, let's hand you back to Andy McEwen in the commentary box. Over to you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Richard. Yeah, really looking forward to this. We are with you now for the rest of the afternoon, bringing you live coverage of some of the very best of British motorsport. I was going to say club level motorsport. You forget actually that BRSCC events are technically club events, professionally run, massive grids and great racing, as we saw from the opening race of the day, the MX5 Clubman's. As Richard says though, we are now heading to technically another one make championship in that all the cars are Fords, but as you'll see, there's great variety of car on the track. It's the Ford Capri on pole position of Simon Light, Stephen Scott Dunwoody alongside, Josh Payton and Kester Cook are next, Ford Cortina alongside a Fiesta ST150. Then it's Rory Jose in the Ford Focus ST Turbo alongside the Ford Escort Maxi of Lloyd Jameson. Caitlin May and James Allen are on the fourth row together before Craig Rayner and David Matthias complete the top 10. Matthias in the Sierra Sapphire Cosworth, car to watch I think in this one. Then it's Scott Matthias lining up in his Sapphire 11th on the grid alongside David Guthrie in 12th. And then another Fiesta, the SE1.6 of Gary Littlewood alongside Ben Tellis and Christoforou in the Mark II Escort, one of several Mark II Escorts on the grid today. Neil Hargrave and Wayne Crabtree together on the 8th row, row 9 for Paul Neville and Chris Baker. And it's a long old grid this. We've got 24 rows to get through. 47 cars hopefully will take the start. There is one question mark. We'll get to that in a moment or two. Sam Daffin and Tom Abbott complete the top 20 on the grid. And then we have Martin Reynolds and Harry Hardy in Ford Puma. Again, we've got a handful, I think, of the Pumas out here this weekend. Samuel Hayward and Alex Bohm next. Alex Bohm, one of the last times I saw him was in the barriers at Cadwell Park towards the back end of last year. I think that's the same Fiesta ST150 Z-Tech that he crashed at the start line there, repaired now, ready for another season of racing. Brian Lilly and Aaron Lally are next alongside Rob Lewis, who we'll be hearing from a lot tomorrow during our Citroen C1 race. He'll be our roving pit reporter for that one, starting his Ford Focus ST70, 27th on the grid alongside Matt Sanders, Oliver Bullion and Jason Stone completing the top 30. Then it's the Mark 1 Ford Escort of Colin Claxton with Matt McCarthy, Dr. Evil on the 16th row on the grid, then Tom Bison and Dave Barrett on the 17th row grid. Then it's Michael Rudge and Tim Sandu, row 18 together. We're still not even in the last 3 or 4 rows of the grid. Anton Martin and Nigel Craig, Escort RS 1600 alongside Mark II RS 2000. And then the top 40 of this mammoth grid is completed by Jason Rudge and Mike Watson, another Sierra Cosworth. You'll see the classes noted next to each name as well. I'll give you a bit more information on that in a moment. Demetrius Neophytou is 41st on the grid alongside Paul Solb in his Mark 1 Ford Focus. Then Matthew Brennan and Steve Cripps together on the 22nd row of the grid. Nearly there. 23rd row, Piers Warwick and Catherine Henderson. Again, another Mark 1 Escort there in the hands of Piers Warwick, with Ralph Higson, the question mark, because that Mark 1 Turbo Ford Focus did not set a time in qualifying, so we'll have to see whether that car has made it out or not for what will be a 20-minute race around the full Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Our Lord and Master Paul McCurlian there on the start line, keeping a watching brief, making sure everything is going as it should do. Really looking forward to this one. As I said, technically a one-make series, the modified Ford series, but it is split across a number of different classes, all based upon power-to-weight ratio. There are 5 classes in total. There are some other specifics to whether you're in classes A, B plus, B or C, but the other classes all down to power-to-weight ratios. Series as well, so not a championship. We don't have to worry about championship points. It's just a series of races, so the drivers can dip in and out as and when they want to. They can pick their favourite tracks, or they can take their time getting their cars prepared at this early stage of the season. I mean, if ever there was a round you'd expect to have a slightly smaller grid, with a series like this especially, it would be the season opener, because these cars take a lot of time and effort to get prepared for the season. But there is certainly no shortage of drivers, with 46 of them at least taken to the grid for this opening race of the season. So cars making their way up past the Silverstone wing. It'll be a rolling start as well, which means that it's the first time today that we will see the runyourfleet.com safety car. Hopefully the last time we'll see it as well. That's leading them around, acting as the pace car now essentially on the green flag lap, and they will run 2 by 2 to the line where the red lights will go out and will be away and racing. Damp qualifying session this morning. That was kind of the story of the morning, really. So some of the more powerful cars perhaps not able to really excel in the way that you would expect. So I expect there to be a bit of jockeying for position here in the early stages, as those who didn't qualify all that well try to power their way to the front. Of course, the great thing about the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit is that it has got a little bit of everything. We think of it as a horsepower track, lots of long straights, lots of fast corners, but through those fast corners you've got to have a car that handles well. There are also lots of tight technical sections though, through the Vale and Club, Village and the Loop, and then here at the end of the lap, at the end of the Wellington Straight, Brooklands and Luffield. So some of the cars carrying a bit less weight, some of the cars that have four-wheel drive, of course that's something that's perfectly allowed within this series. They may well have a slight edge. Indeed, those four-wheel drive cars would have been hoping that the rain would make a reappearance for the race, but the track is now pretty much bone dry. Again, that should favour perhaps some of the more powerful Escorts and Sierras a bit further down the grid. So once the race gets going, we'll keep a note of who's doing what in the various classes as well, with, I believe, a winner's trophy available for the victory in each of the 5 classes. Battle at the front of the field should be pretty interesting. Simon Light was a couple of seconds quicker than Stephen Scott Dunwoody in qualifying. Whether he can translate that into the race pace, we'll have to wait and see. Unlike the standing starts, pole position is on driver's right for a rolling start, so it is the 111 car that lines up on the inside of row number 1, which is on the pole position. Then Simon Light, Stephen Scott Dunwoody, the white car alongside him. 2 by 2 they come then through the final corner, ready to go racing then in the modified Ford Series for 2023. Waiting for those red lights to go out, no overtaking until that point. A couple of them getting a little bit over-eager further back. Now the lights go out, and a good start made by Rory Jost there in the pink Ford Focus further back. One car getting a bit sideways on the damper side of the road, where there is perhaps a bit of moisture lingering on the circuit, but that looked as though it was Stephen Scott Dunwoody who got the lead through the first corner. So from the outside of row 1, even with a rolling start, there was perhaps a small advantage to that grippier side of the road. And so therefore it is going to be the Sierra that lead them through Maggots and Beckett's for the first time. The leading few forming a bit of an orderly queue, but behind them it's getting very, very congested indeed, as different cars excelling at different parts of the track. That's a bit of a tight squeeze through Maggots and Beckett's, 3 wide very briefly at the apex there, but they all just about avoided contact, I think. One of the Fiestas there making some good ground. I think that's Kester Cook, number 93, that has broken through into second place. Yes, it is ahead of the pole sitter Simon Light. Rory Jost goes through in the pink Ford Focus as well. And as they work their way around Stowe Corner, past the wing, and there's contact, and Jost is on the grass, and oh yes, into the barriers he goes. Rory Jost with damage to the left-hand side of the Focus. There was a bit of a squeeze coming out of Stowe Corner. The front right wheel has come adrift of the car as well, and that is a real shame. Rory Jost was making some good moves in the early stages, but there must have been a little bit of contact coming out of Stowe with another car, and that put him on the grass, which is very, very wet, of course, and it's not a part of the track, strangely, for Silverstone, where you have a lot of runoff areas. So that's a real shame for Rory, whose car is going no further in this race, and now maybe a bit of a question mark for race number 2, which is the last race of the day, due to start at around about 5:30. Double wave yellows, of course. The handy thing is that he's found the international pit lane entrance, so he's well off the track. Hopefully we won't need to see the safety car, but that will be of little comfort for Rory, whose race and perhaps day has come to a rather abrupt and expensive end. Down towards Brooklands we go then. Leader is still Stephen Scott Dunwoody. Of course, Rory was running about 4th or 5th, wasn't he, at the time? So that has split the pack a little bit. There goes the number 39 car, Josh Payton, who started on the second row on the outside line. The Cortina Mark II. Don't see many Mark II Cortinas, do you? Anywhere, let alone on a racetrack. And running reasonably well, although having dropped a couple of places from where he started. One of those cars that perhaps is a little bit underpowered compared to some of those around it, but excelled in the wet conditions earlier on. So Scott Dunwoody leads the opening lap then, second place for Light. It is Kester Cook in third. Side-by-side battle there, though, that is the number 77 car of James Allen, slipping up the inside of Lloyd Jameson. That was for 4th position. So the Ford Focus getting ahead of the Escort Maxi Cosworth. And then behind, I think there was another change, was it not? That was David Matthias getting ahead of Payton as well, although Payton fighting back and gets the place straight back again. Really good racing, and another graphic example of how some cars have a clear advantage down the straights, but then can't carry the speed through the technical sections. So it's one of the things I love about multi-class racing, especially with such a wide variety of car as we have on this grid. At one part of the track it looks like one car is dominant, but that can change corner by corner. Change there for 3rd place as well. That was James Allen up the inside of Kester Cook, who is starting to struggle a little bit in that EcoBoost engine Ford Fiesta ST150. Single wave yellow flags whilst the marshals get back into their position on the run into the Vale, but hopefully they should be in by the time they next arrive down here, because that's one of the better overtaking opportunities on the circuit. The car is good under braking anyway. Slip up the inside quite nicely into the left-hander. That yellow flag zone, no overtaking in theory, although there was a bit of side-by-side action I spotted there. The top 3 cars, by the way, all class leaders, all running in different classes. Class A for Scott Dunwoody, Class SA, which is the Super A class for Light, and then B plus for Kester Cook. Where are the other class leaders then? A bit further down, number 191 was leading in Class B. That was Harry Hardy in the Ford Puma. And Class C by Alex Bone in that rebuilt Ford Fiesta. Guessing it's the rebuilt Ford Fiesta anyway that he had the crash in at Cadwell Park last year. Right there for Paul Neville, number 33, just dropping a little bit of ground to the 61 car ahead. 61 being David Guthrie, who started 12th, Neville 17th, and they've, well, it's Neville that's moved forward, actually. They both gained ground, but Neville gaining 6 places from where he started, but had a bit of a moment there through the loop. 1.1 seconds then was the lead for the race leader last time. Now, Simon Light is shown as having come through as the race leader. That could be a transponder issue. No, it has been a lead change, in fact. It was a lead change, so Simon Light has gone through. 67 thousandths of a second was his advantage over Stephen Scott Dunwoody. So Simon Light, having started on pole position, has now reclaimed 1st place. Took him a couple of laps, but now they've traded it back, haven't they? So Stephen back in front of the Capri. The 8-powered Ford Capri, which makes a lovely rumble as it races past the pits every lap. But they're both being caught, are they not, by Jameson, I think. Because Lloyd Jameson, who started 6th on the grid, on the last lap of 21.0, so within a 10th of Light and quicker than Scott Dunwoody. The 124 car, that is, going slowly, which is Alex Bone. Now, he was a class leader last I checked, and that is a different livery on that car than he had last year, so I wonder if it is a new Ford Fiesta. Perhaps if he wins his class, we might get the chance to hear from him in the pit lane, but he was definitely slowing them. Interestingly, back to double wave yellows now at Vale, but we'll get to that in a moment because we're going to have another lead change. Our 3rd of the lap. Up the inside goes Light, but the momentum is there with Scott Dunwoody on the outside line, and keep an eye to James Allen, lapping quicker than both of them. They're side by side in front, flames spitting from the Sierra Cosworth as it turns into Abbey and reclaims the race lead. James Allen around the outside as well now, and he should be able to relieve Light of 2nd place, I think, as they make their way towards Village for the 3rd time. Great racing at the head of the field. I don't think Jameson was that far back either in 4th in his Escort Maxi Cosworth. Let's see. Well, it is Scott Dunwoody back in front, and yes, there is Jameson, so it's a 4-car battle for the lead now, and 4 more different cars you couldn't really hope to find. That's the joy of the modified Ford series. They may all be carrying the blue oval badge, but Ford have made such a variety of cars, and as the name of this series would suggest, you can pretty much do what you like to these cars. Look how much later on the brakes James Allen was. The much newer Ford Focus, by far the newest, the youngest car of this group. Significantly better under braking, and it does now become the 3rd different race leader on this lap alone. And the pace that James Allen has I would suggest that might be the last we see of him. Big power slide there from Stephen Scotton-Woody as he comes out of Luffield. That just allows Simon Light to get back up the inside. They're surprisingly evenly matched horsepower-wise, those two cars, as they race across the line. Light's V8 Capri running in the Super A class, Scotton-Woody in Class A itself. As another battle takes place a little bit further back, that's car number 5, Wayne Crabtree losing a position. And it was, I think, 27, yes, 27 slipping up the inside, Pantelis Christoforou. Mark 2 Escort ahead of Mark 1. Is that Alex Bohm behind them? No, I think he's a bit further back than that, isn't he? So we'll figure out whether Bohm is still leading his class in a moment or two. No doubt about the overall race leader, though. James Allen doing his best to try and escape here. Simon Light has now broken free, though, of Stephen Scotton-Woody, so we'll now see what the true pace of the Capri is. Was fastest in a damp session, so you would expect that car to struggle in the wet. That wasn't really the case. Now it's dry, arguably it should be even faster. Now, I know we're not supposed to have favourites, but that is an awfully good-looking car, isn't it? The number 71 of Brian Lilly, Sierra Cosworth RS 500 in the Dick Johnson Racing livery. Made famous over in Australia, of course, and a variation of that still used on the Dick Johnson Racing supercars to this day. Very good looking car. It wasn't going awfully quickly through Brooklands. Perhaps he's had a moment somewhere, but good to have that car out on track regardless. Already doing a bit of lappery as one or two stragglers fall one lap down to the leading two, who I'd say are getting slightly closer on this lap. Third place couldn't be a lot closer. Lloyd Jameson right on the tail of the third placed Scotton-Woody car. At least he was going into Abbey, and yeah, they close back in again, coming out of that sequence of corners. That shape of Escort Cosworth you don't see a lot of in circuit racing. It's a car that was very popular, or a shape of car that was very popular in rallying through the 90s, and therefore you see an awful lot of them rallying still to this day, but a very underused car when it comes to circuit racing. Good to see one out there running well too. The Ford Fiesta ST150, well, you can't move for Fiesta ST150s these days, it seems. They're almost as popular as Mazda MX-5s. Two examples of the ST150s battling away here. Number 75 at the head of that battle, Gary Littlewood. A big lock up there further back as well, but this is all going on down at Vale & Club. The leaders are not a million miles away from putting this lot a lap down already. There is the number 170 car. Now that is Robert Lewis, who, as I said, we'll be seeing in the pit lane tomorrow as our pit lane presenter. I believe he's doing the full season in the pit lane for the Silver Lake Citroën C1 Championship Series. And he will be getting all of the news from the pits over the 4-hour race that will take us through the bulk of tomorrow afternoon. So Rob proving that he knows what he's talking about by competing as well as being our pit reporter tomorrow. 70 car running at the moment 30th, that's 7th in Class B, but to move forward, I'm sure, towards the end of the race. Big moment under brakes there for James Allen. He really is asking everything of the brakes of the Focus, and he has to, because Simon Light is reeling him in, and that seems to be the only advantage, really, that the Focus has over the Capri, is under braking. Focus is not a light car, but it is a newer car, and slightly better braking capability, perhaps. And that is just keeping Simon Light at arm's reach for now. Now, was that Scotton-Woody? That's David Matthias, isn't it, in the Sapphire Cosworth, who has got Dallas Christopher right behind him. As at Cops Corner, the 96 car of Nigel Craig comes through in his Mark II Escort. So one of the many Ford Focuses right behind, in fact, getting a run on him towards Maggots and Beckett, and that's a positional change, I think. Now, who was that in the Focus? Number 52, that was. Another WRC-inspired livery, Ralph Higson. The M-Sport livery that was on that shape of Ford Focus when it was first introduced to the World Rally Championship in the late 90s. I want to say 1999, but I may have got that wrong. But another really iconic livery, lovingly recreated for this Blue Oval Series. Fastest lap of the race, by the way, set by Simon Light. There it is, as if by magic, appearing on the screen. They've just gone across the national start-finish line, where we're based this weekend. At the wing, we have a change there with the 191 car. That's the Puma of Harry Hardy, who actually I think is the only Puma entered. We normally get 2 or 3 of them, but Harry, the only Puma, and entered in Class B. It's a very, very popular class, where you find most of the Fiestas and the newer, slightly less modified Fords. All the XR2 there, almost getting in the way now. They do have a lot of traffic to deal with all of a sudden, the race leaders. And Jason Rudge in the Fiesta XR2, just the first, and now a boot popping open as well on one of the Fiestas, just to add further distraction to the race leaders as they try and negotiate that group of cars. Look at the way that the Capri closes in at the second half of the Hangar Straight. And James Allen having to really, really concentrate now. The slightest mistake and Simon Light will be through, I think. Now, who was that with the boot popping open? Because I'm pretty sure they're going to get called into the pit lane if that doesn't resolve itself. It might have resolved itself now, actually. Seems to have closed by the time they get down to clubs. They might just get away with that. But this battle for the lead, I think we might be about to see a change. Simon Light heading out onto the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight, past the wing, has the horsepower, has the inside line, but doesn't have the momentum through the corner. We saw this time and again in the Clubman race earlier on. The inside line at Abbey, same as Copse, it's not always the place to be when you're trying to make a move, because you just lose your momentum at the apex. Simon Light has it all to do again now. Closing in though through Village in the loop. One of the best handling Ford Capris I've ever seen. It's fair to say that the road-going Capri was not known for its cornering stability, especially in the wet. But Simon's done a lot of good work on that car to make it handle as well as it goes down the straights. Flame-spitting Sierra of Stephen Scott Dunwoody still holding on to this third place, but really falling away now from the top 2. And Lloyd Jameson, you feel, could be a little bit quicker if only he could get through. But again, he doesn't have the straight line speed advantage to get to the inside. He's very late on the brakes at Brooklands. It was an interesting line from both of them, actually, and it might still work for Jameson. He's got the outside now into Luffield, and he does sweep through. So one of the more unorthodox overtakes you'll see today, neither of them taking what looked like the right line through Brooklands, but it worked out all right for the escort man. He now breaks through onto the podium. Now, he is in the same class, Lloyd Jameson, as Simon Light, so not likely to claim a class victory. 530 is Neil Argrave, though that's the Mark II Escort Warrior, and now that is a slightly precarious place. That looks like the car has stopped with a mechanical issue rather than an accident. It's car 13 that's got the DRS open, and that is Dave Barrett, who certainly will get called in now, because there's no way the clerk of the course didn't see that as it drove past the race control building. Waving at the it's almost like he's waving the faster cars through, but I don't think that car will be able to stay out there for another 5 minutes. We shall see. 27 is Pantelis Christoforou. Class B plus David Matthias ahead. Now Matthias is fighting for a class podium, actually, with the car just ahead of him, the yellow Escort Mark II of Craig Rayner. So the yellow Escort, the white Sapphire Cosworth, they are fighting for a class podium, not a class win, but a class podium within Class A. Class being led by James Allen, your overall race leader, who was 22 1,000ths of a second ahead of Simon Light as they came across the line. That's twice they've done that now. We might need to get the photo finish camera ready for this one, because they, on 2 occasions of the 6 that they have gone past the pits now, have been separated by virtually nothing at the line. Getting into the closing stages of the race now. We expected close finishes from some of our other categories. I don't think many people expected the modified Ford series to end with a photo finish, but you never know. It's been a fantastic battle between those two, and as they duck and dive in traffic, there is still nothing to separate them. Back out past the wing we go, and that was a bit of a late move to the inside, but it works quite nicely, although they're all lapped cars that are being negotiated by Josh Payton. Mark II Cortina, 3 wide through Abbey, the boot waggling number 13 of Dave Barrett actually making a move now on the 24 of Dimitris Neophytou. Mark 1 Crossflow. This fight for third place in Class A rages on. Down the Wellington straight towards the braking zone at Brooklands Corner. Leaders therefore about to go through, and Simon Light, I can tell you, has gone back through into the race lead now. James Allen 4.1 seconds back, so something happened to James Allen on that lap that has allowed Simon Light to not only get through but actually build up the biggest lead that anyone's had so far in this race. So we can only speculate, I'm afraid, on what happened, but perhaps it was in traffic that James Allen was delayed. So the Capri back out in front, started on pole position, but certainly hasn't led every lap, that must be said. Third place battle coming back through Beckett's as well there. That was Jameson still ahead of Scott Dunwoody. Fifth position was the battle we were just focusing on between Rayner, David Matthias and Christoforou. There is your race leader though. So Simon Light then, and you wait, and there is James Allen. So he really has lost some ground. Nothing obviously wrong with the Focus, so it looked like it was going slowly, didn't look like it was carrying damage, so it must have just been a moment in traffic somewhere. But of course, that could easily happen to Simon Light at the next group of back markers that they have to deal with. It does look like James is not having the best of time in the traffic though. Number 96 there was Nigel Craig. He wasn't doing anything wrong, he was just taking his line through the corner, but through a left-right section like Club, it can make it very difficult for the quicker car to find a way through. Still pretty much the length of the straight there between Allen in second and Jameson third. And of course they're not in the same class anyway, so the class victories, at least at the front, seemingly pretty static. Closest of the class battles actually is Class B, where number 16, Chris Baker, is only one position but 2.7 seconds ahead of the 191, the Ford Puma of Harry Hardy. They are fighting for Class B honours, as their 124 goes up the inside of 196 as well. That was another lap, Alex Bowman putting a lap on the Escort there. Simon Light though, just over 3.6 miles remain of this opening race of the season for the modified Ford Series. Sponsored for this weekend by Crossways Garage Bromley. And a really good show for us here in the first race of their season. V8 Capri thunders past the pit lane, and that's more than 4.1 seconds now. Is there a problem here for James Allen? Because that's a 2:21.3 compared to a 2:19.2 for Light. Now, we saw James Allen getting held up in a bit of traffic. That could account for a second or so. There was one car just went past not sounding very healthy either, and I wonder whether that was Lloyd Jamieson's car, because I think I might have seen a little bit of smoke coming from the Escort as it went through, but there was a car that sounded like it was misfiring as it went past the commentary box. Is there a bit of smoke coming from the Escort? We'll have to get another look at it maybe down the back straight. There goes Alex Bowman. I promised you a while ago I was going to update you on how he was going. Oh, well, he has lost the class lead now, so Class C is now being led by number 75, Gary Littlewood. Of course, Alex we saw going slowly a few laps ago, and that appears to have cost him the class lead. They are about 6 or 7 seconds apart as well, I think, at the moment. Oh, sorry, no, excuse me. They are even more than that, about 20 odd seconds apart. So Alex Bowman unlikely to be able to get back into a class-winning position, unfortunately. It's all really fallen into place nicely for Simon Light. A terrific battle with James Allen, but once we got into the traffic, that was the only thing that could separate them. And James, for whatever reason, over the last couple of laps, losing pace compared to the leader. His second place should be pretty secure, but it will only be second. It'll still be a win in Class A, though. Simon Light in Super Class A will also be victorious. It's the overall race win that they were both gunning for there. Two completely different cars from completely different decades, but for the first two-thirds of the race or so, were very, very closely matched on pace, and we look forward to having these cars back out again at the end of the day for their second race of the weekend. Hopefully we'll get a rematch, but Simon Light will, it seems, convert pole position into the race victory. It wasn't quite straightforward, but he will come out of Luffield corner now then. Oh, I thought he was going to give us a nice little power slide, but he's staying well away from the white lines, keeping things nicely under control. And as he comes out of Woodcote corner for the final time, he sees the checkered flag, and Simon Light is victorious in the Modified Ford Series opening race here at Silverstone. And it's a long, long wait now before James Allen hopefully appears in second place. Haven't seen him yet come through. Now James Allen comes through with an even slower final lap. 12.3 seconds nearly was the distance. Looks like maybe Lloyd Jamieson was running into some issues there towards the end, because his final lap was quite a slow one, and that compared to a personal best for Stephen Scott Dunwoody meant that gap came down by the flag to under half a second, but Jamieson hangs on. Then the fight for fifth position Are we going to see a change here? I don't think so. They're all in traffic, and so that's going to prevent David Matthias or Pantelis Christoforou from having a proper go at number 23, Craig Rayner. So Rayner finishes 5th, Matthias 6th, Christoforou 7th, Cook in 8th. Payton then will come home in 9th position, number 39 car. And looking forward to seeing Mark II Cortina. Here it comes. And Josh Payton, Crystal Clear Windows Bristol sponsored car. Novice Cross on the back of that car as well. What a car to make your racing debut in. I don't know if that was his first ever race full stop or whether he's had a bit of experience, but class podium is not bad going. And then it should be the 271 car of Martin Reynolds that completes the top 10. Oh, nice slide out of Luffield there. That is Reynolds, the 271. I think. Or is that? Yes, it is the 271. And Reynolds comes through in 10th position, which will be, I think, 4th in class. Yes, 4th in Class B+. The class winners then, obviously some of them have not yet got to the line, but Super A won by this man, Simon Light. Class A by James Allen. Class B+ by Pantelis Christoforou. Class B was won in the end by number 16, Chris Baker. And that was by under a second, actually, over Harry Hardy in the Ford Puma, 14th and 15th overall. So that's one we possibly need to keep a close eye on in race 2 later on. Class C was won by Gary Littlewood in his Fiesta SE 1.6. And I think there was one more, was there not? Yes, Class Super B by Matthew Brennan, number 41 in his Mark II Ford Escort. Looks as though only 2 or 3 of them weren't running at the flag. Rory Joseph, of course, we saw with his spectacular exit at the exit of Stowe Corner on lap 1. And he'll already be counting the cost, I'm afraid, of the shunt that he had there on that first lap of the race. We also lost 71 Brian Lilly, 33 as well. Paul Neville was an on-finisher. He dropped out quite early on, actually, which is a shame because he was someone who were following it on the opening lap. In fact, I seem to recall, I think he retired at the start of lap 2, and we did see him have that moment at the loop on the opening lap. I wonder if maybe that was the beginnings of a problem. The 4th and final retirement, I think, was number 530, Neil Argrave in his Mark II Warrior Ford Escort. So very low attrition rates, surprisingly so, with 43 of them getting to the flag. We may have therefore a small delay before our next race comes up. We are bringing you another 6 races this afternoon from Silverstone. The Mazda MX-5 Championship, the Mark 1 cars will be out next. Then it's the Dunlop Mini 7 and Mini Miglias who will be out after them for their first 20-minute race. A packed grid, I think 60 plus cars on the grid for that one. The MX-5 Super Cup, that's a really hotly anticipated race, will be our 4th race of the afternoon before the Club Sport Trophy have their 45-minute pit stop race. The Clubman Mark 1s are back out again towards the end of the day, about 5 o'clock-ish, and the Modified Fords due to start at 5:35, but we are, touch wood, running a little bit ahead of schedule here in Silverstone, so make sure you keep up to date, ideally by keeping the live stream on all day, but if you are having to pop away, then keep an eye to TSL Timing, www.tsl-timing. We provide our live timing data, and that will keep you up to date with what's going on when. So confirmation then of the result. Simon Light, the race winner, and winner in his class as well. 2nd goes to James Allen, 3rd Craig Lloyd Jameson, 4th Stephen Scott Dunwoody, 5th then went the way of Craig Rayner. 6th David Matthias, 7th Pantelis Christoforou, 8th for Kester Cook, 9th for number 39, which was Payton. The top 10 completed by Reynolds. You can see the rest of them running through on your screen. Simon Light getting the fastest lap, 2:17.001, which, just to put that into perspective, is 18.5 seconds quicker than they went in qualifying. So, and he set the pole position time in qualifying as well. So that's how wet it was this morning. Really impressed actually with the pace that he had in the wet in that car. As I said, would have imagined that would be a bit of a handful, but managed to put in a really good lap that was nearly 2 seconds quicker than Stephen Scott Dunwoody, and was about 7 seconds, almost exactly 7 seconds quicker than James Allen, who turned out to be his nearest rival in that race. So it goes to show that you can't take too much out of those qualifying times. So, confirmation of the result. I think before too much longer we can head down then to the pit lane though, because the drivers have now made their way to the podium, where they'll be greeted by Richard John Neal.
Well, down in Victory Lane, and Simon Light takes the first win of the modified series. Simon is out of the car, I think, and ready. Simon, can we get you over? Well done, many congratulations. We'll get you in front of our BRSC about. I'm just going to retire a little bit back here. People sound I've been retiring for ages, but a great win. The car looks absolutely fantastic. But tell us about the story of the race, because that was far from straightforward.
Oh, definitely, yeah. That was hard work at the beginning, but a lot of fun. You know, had a couple of cars in front of me, and then James come and joined in as well, and it was a really good battle. And I didn't think, I didn't think I'd get back in the lead and have a gap to, yeah. But
Andy McEwen, the commentator, was saying, you know, this is the antidote to one-make racing, isn't it? All of the different classes, the different types of cars, and different parts of the circuit will suit different vehicles. And then you got the traffic came in when the Class C cars were being passed as well. That added another element to the race.
Definitely, yeah, because front-wheel drive, rear, four-wheel drive. I could see after a few laps exactly where my strong points were, and yeah, so I could have a look, and yeah, it worked.
Conditions were completely different, weren't they, to qualify? I think we were about 15 seconds a lap quicker in the race. How do you transfer that, you know, being ready for a wet, damp qualifying and then going to a much drier racetrack?
Just have to find your braking point as quick as possible. Because yeah, I was on wets this morning, so I had no idea. But I've been racing since '87. It's the first time I've done the Grand Prix circuit, so yeah, there's a few bits to learn still. So I only did 4 laps this morning, so yeah.
That's a nice place to get a win, isn't it?
Yeah, oh excellent, yeah, I won't forget that one. And to have to work hard for it as well, it was brilliant.
The car always looks amazing, it looks great on screen, but up close I urge everyone that's watching on our stream to come and watch these cars in the flesh, because they really do look great close up. Your car looks immaculate. What have you done over the winter?
I haven't done a great deal actually, little bits and pieces, because I knew if I did too much I wouldn't make the Grand Prix the meeting, so I wanted to make sure I could make that one. But yeah, the modified Fords, it's brilliant. The 50 cars, and just everything. Mark II Cortina as well, and just we've had Anglias out, and just an absolute total mix. Yeah, it's brilliant. And estates.
Brilliant to see. Well done. We're going to catch up with some of the other guys. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Simon Light, who takes the win. We need to get James Allen in next, who took second position. James, let's have a quick word. Congratulations. We'll get you in front of our BRSCC signage. And so, what a race with Simon. I mean, that was great for our viewers, and I'm guessing twice as good for you fellas.
Yeah, it was good fun. I thought I got a good jump on him, but he just seemed to come back. As soon as we got round the back here with all the double yellows, I just couldn't keep pace with him with all the traffic. No, good first race.
Bit in the tank for race 2?
Yeah, oh yeah. Car's still working, so yeah, I think so.
I was talking to Simon about, the changes between conditions in qualifying and going into the race. Obviously, there's a lot to sort of get in your head, maybe setup-wise, that you want to apply for the dry. Is that going to be the same again for race 1 to race 2?
I think if it stays like this, we'll be fine. I definitely got it wrong in qualifying, big time. But no, we've got a perfect car now if it stays like this. Might turn the wick up a little bit. And
what about the entry? I mean, the fact that you're at the sharp end of what is a very, very competitive and huge grid for the first race of the year.
Yeah, it did look to be a little bit better than it was. I mean, it's great anyway, but I think there were 61 cars originally. No, fantastic. There's some real quick cars up the front there, real quick. And I hope Rory's okay. Because
absolutely.
He was in front of me when he had his moment, shall we say. It didn't look very nice when I came round again, so yeah, I hope he's okay.
We'll get the update on that. Nice thought, James. Thank you for that, and well done on P2. Well done, James. So we need to catch up with our third place man, Lloyd Jameson. Lloyd, thank you for very patiently waiting to chat to us. A round of applause there as well from colleagues. We'll get you again in front of the banner, and you had to work hard and made some places there.
Yes, very demanding.
What was the high point of the race for you, or the most difficult part?
The pace of the car. The pace of the car just surprised me. Last season, I was very much middle of the pack. So this year the improvements we've made over the winter, which the change of the body style to let us onto the wider wheels, I have to thank Ali McMillan at MJ Racing for all the body work that he's done to the car. I have to thank Andrew Gallagher, who's here today, also for helping with the mapping and the electronics, my sponsor for the season, Revolution Wheels, and of course my family. My granddad's going to be at home watching this just now, and he'll be jumping up and down, you know, he'll be over the moon, because it's a big surprise to have the pace that we had today, you know.
That's good to see. Tell us a little bit about the history of the car.
So we bought the car as a track day car maybe 3 years ago, and we came here for the Ford owners. It was like a Ford RS owners club day, and Paul Neville was promoting the series, and he said, listen, you've got a car that could come and compete. And at that point I'd never thought about motor racing as a sport. My family's sport is equestrianism, is horses, and that's always been my my family's sport. So yeah, Paul says come along, find out a little bit more about it. And last season I was middle of the pack, as I says, and so it's just a big surprise, the first race of the year, and I've got a car that's got the pace to be on a podium. I can't believe it.
And you as a driver have got the pace. Let's give you due credit as well.
Yeah, but you've got to have the car.
It's the package of both, isn't it, and the vote behind. Well,
I think if I'd either of these two guys had been fortunate enough to have my car, I'm sure they would have done a much better job than Ford with it. It's a fantastic car.
Lloyd, very modest of you. Great drive from where we were watching, so well done. Good overtakes, good negotiation of traffic. Enjoy race 2. We look forward to seeing you back for that one.